Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast, powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association, of course. I am your host, Dean Phillips, and as well as, to be perfectly honest, I am the technical director of technical training for the Precision Metal Forming Association. With me today, of course, I have from Ulbrich, I have with me, and I'm very fortunate to do this, is I have with me the COO, as well as the chairman for the PMA, Mr. Gregg Boucher. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Dean. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, and you are an amazing juggler of everything that you have to do, and I don't know how you do it.
Well, we've got a lot going on. This has been a real rock and roll year for us. As you know, it's the 100-year centennial for Ulbrich.
Yep.
And we have been very busy getting out the different facilities that we have on a global footprint, celebrating this event. You know, Ulbrich firmly believes it's not just a family celebration, but the entire Ulbrich family celebration, which includes all the people who've gotten us here. We really try to make a point to get out and celebrate this with everyone. And then on top of that, you know, the Precision Metal Forming Association and the role as chair. It's a very exciting year for the PMA. We just had our summer board meeting last week, and you know, we got some great things happening at the PMA.
Great. And I'm sure we'll get to those in a minute. I always like to ask, what is your big takeaway?
My big takeaway as far as where you see us going, huh?
Yeah, the next 5 years, what do you
Yeah,
see changing?
you know, it's a great question. And I don't know if it's just a 5-year time frame. It might be a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year time frame, but I think it's definitely a trend. And if you look back, you have to go back and look in the rearview mirror a little bit also. And so, you know, I joined Ulbrich almost 40 years ago. So when I look at the type of products that we were making back then and the type of products that our customers were purchasing back then, there's been a big shift, okay? And I think you're going to continue to see that trend as we go forward. And that means, you know, that to be successful here in the United States, you know, you're going to have to continue to be able to work in those niche products, have that capabilities driven type of strategy for your organization, and really be able to differentiate yourself from the others. And so I think that companies, whether it's our customers, whether it's Ulbrich, we're going to have to continue to be more and more specialized at what we do. And as that happens, it also means that our employees are going to be very different than what they used to be. You know, when I look at other countries, you know, whether you're looking, let's say, Mexico, whether you're looking at Asia, you know, a lot of the people that they have that are out there working with the equipment, working on the floor, they are trained and educated engineers. And I think that part of the mindset that we're going to have, because as the requirements become more specific, as our equipment that we work with becomes more complicated, we're going to have an employee base that's going to be capable of performing and handling these types of equipment. And so, you know, I really think that there's going to be a shift where people are going to look at manufacturing not as a bunch of companies pounding out dog bowls, but companies that are really making some sophisticated parts. So I see we're going to have to go into the marketplace and really position ourselves to attract the type of personnel that we need to attract. The other thing is we're going to have to really be looking at making some investments in our equipment. The technologies have changed, and when I look at some of the equipment that we had when I started with the company to the type of equipment that we're bringing on board now, they're very, very different. And I think that that applies to just about the entire metalworking industry.
And following in that same line, uh, one of the challenges I think that we're faced with, that all of manufacturing has been faced with, is attracting the best and brightest. What does that look like as we look forward? How do we do that better? How do we do that as far as bringing in those people and making them interested in manufacturing again?
So, there's a couple of different points to this. Okay. One point is it's how we're going to have to position the positions and the roles as we go out into the marketplace. And, I think that, maybe it's even subtle things like we're looking for technicians, we're not looking for operators. And it's where we go to find some of these people. Maybe we spend more time interfacing and interacting with the armed forces, where we're looking for people that maybe had electrical skill sets working on an aircraft carrier, for example. Well, now all of a sudden they're ready to get out of service. Well, maybe we can offer some of those same type of challenges for them within our organization. So I think we're going to have to kind of re-engineer what type of pool that we go after. I know we spend a lot of time now trying to reach down almost to the elementary grade school level as we try to attract employees. But I think it's just going to be, we're going to have to go in a lot of different directions for that.
I like that idea though, and I couldn't agree with you more on the using the term techs over operators and things like that, because when we're trying to attract people, one of the problems that I see when I talk to HR people, when I talk to trainers at different companies, the challenge that they have now is the role is very different. As an HR person, it used to be, you were there to talk about benefits, talk about what your offering was to the person, and that was it. You didn't have to go into the sales role. Now the HR people have to sell the company and sell why I should be here. What is my contribution?
You bring up a great point, okay? And we can talk more about the PMA as we go forward, but I was at the FOF conference down in Huntington Beach, and Bill Coughlin got up and he talked about purpose, a company that has a purpose, all right? And it really struck us at Ulbrich what Lippert had done with this. And so, from there we attended a purpose summit, and then from there we went on to the red carpet rollout at Lippert. And what we decided is they were onto something. And so, we had a pretty good culture at Ulbrich already. We had our value system in place with our core tenants, but there were certain pieces that were missing. And I think as we're trying to onboard people, they want to find out that they work for a cause that's greater than just making money. Okay. And so that's what we embarked on. And we came up with a purpose statement. We refined our core tenants, but what we ended up with is more than metal. And that is, what I'm saying is relative to Ulbrich, but quite frankly, I think it's relative to the entire metalworking industry. Our industry touches lives every day, every way that people can't even imagine. Whether you're looking at items that go into the medical field that save lives, whether you're looking at applications in automotive, which might be conveniences, but once again, a lot of safety implications, aerospace, nuclear, oil and gas. I mean, we touch people's lives in every way, every day. And I think that's one of the exciting things that we, as a group, as an industry, really have to be able to convey out to folks as we're trying to onboard them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's one of the challenges I see, that HR people weren't trained that way. But that's another one of those shifts of retraining and upskilling some of our people. It has to be a continuing education, not just, it doesn't end when you get out of school as an engineer or You have your HR and business administration degree or anything that is related to how we're going to do things. We need to have that purpose and be able to convey it. The other area that I think is interesting is technology, illustrating to new hires what is it that they're looking for to see that you really embrace technology. What do you see happening out there, and how do we go about communicating that message that we are a technical industry?
Well, I just think that it has to be brought into the culture of the organization, that everybody knows that we are all constantly looking at the new technologies that are out there and reinvesting in our organizations and trying to stay ahead of the curve. We've got a lot of other people out there chasing us, and I'm talking about other countries. And so for our association, our industry, our country to be successful, we're going to have to stay ahead of them. And that's what we have to communicate to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think also the other thing is it starts with the respect on the floor, really embracing what our folks know and what our folks do and getting their feedback as to where they see the challenges, and then going out and helping them come up with solutions.
Do you think that that's something that is more about building the culture, or is it more in a training aspect?
I think it's more culture, okay? Letting
And
people do their jobs and then respecting them and then doing what it is that we need to do so that we can be more effective as an organization.
I think that one of the areas when I hear the Precision Metal Forming Association, I try to emphasize to people the key part of that is the association, that it is members supporting members. And I think sometimes we lose what's really the critical aspect of it is that the membership really is the key component there. It is our members that make a difference. When we're training, when we're doing things, we ask our members, what is it that you need? What are your challenges? What are some of your solutions? And developing best practices based on that. I know that you've really been in this role a short time, but you've seen an awful lot already. What is it that you see looking forward over the next 5 years? How you see that shift in the stuff that you've learned? How does that transfer to make us better in the future, being the Precision Metal Forming Association?
Okay, well, I mean, first off, I've been involved with the Precision Metal Forming Association personally, probably going back to about 1990. So we're going on what, almost 35 years now.
Yep.
Our organization has been involved with PMA as long as I can remember, going on beyond that even. If you look at what the pillars of the association are, they're networking, their advocacy, and their training. Okay, those are the three pillars of our group that are the most important. We also, have some other aspects of the organization which are important, but those are to me the three most important. And if we look at what do I see happening over the next 5 years, let's start with advocacy. I think we're going to need it more than ever. I think that our country is a situation where it's very difficult to navigate what's happening, whether you're talking taxes, duties, tariffs, what's happening on a legislature level that's going to impact how we run our companies. And so I think that's going to be so important moving forward. If we get into the education, that's something that you have your hands on every single day now, Dean. And if you look at even some of the basic onboarding for safety, for example, what we have to do today versus 20 years ago is very different. It's one of the responsibilities of our association to make sure that we keep our members current with knowing what it is that they need to do to protect our employees. Let's face it, when people come to work, we want them going home with the same number of fingers that they showed up with. So, we have a responsibility to keep a safe environment and help protect them. And then, of course, what we need to do to help them be effective at what they do. Okay. And then finally, if we get into the networking aspect, that's critical. When I look at the PMA, I look at a lot of people I've known over the years. They make us where by having these networking, I can tell you that it has probably made me a better person, probably made me a better manager, and probably made Ulbrich a better company because of things that we learn off of each other. There was one member that I talked to that was involved in a networking group, and he said, quite frankly, at the end of the day, I figure they're my board of directors. So networking is so important at the PMA. It makes all of us better.
That's a phenomenal description of that. I think that if we talk about how our responsibility back to our stakeholders, so to speak. So whether that is our employees, whether it's the companies that we are supplying parts to, all of the above, we have a responsibility to them to do better, to do more, to be able to get them educated on the challenges that they're going to be faced with before they're faced with them. I think that people like Omar and everybody in our advocacy group. Omar was on here not too long ago talking about some of the things that were going on with the temperature situation, meaning what, we have to deal with things. And if a company within their confines reaches a certain temperature level, they have to give people a certain amount of breaks, but they also have to be able to have a mitigation solution for getting that temperature down, which could be very challenging for some companies, especially with older buildings. And the timeline becomes very aggressive. So we have to stay ahead of some of the challenges that we have. We want to make a safe work environment for all of our employees. We also need to be realistic about how fast some of this stuff can happen. And I think that's where many of the companies are challenged, is how quickly can I make that change? What other
Well,
challenges?
that's just one, but I'll tell you another one that's coming down the pike, Dean, and that's the carbon tax. Okay.
Oh yeah,
There's a huge green initiative out there. There is going to be a carbon tax. Europe is already very involved in it. It's coming our way. We've got to be in a position where we can help our membership understand what it is, how it impacts them, and what they're going to have to do in order to be compliance, because there's going to be full traceability. And this traceability will go all the way back. Let's say, a lot of our association, metal forming association, guess what they use? They use metal. Okay. And when you go to extract the different ores, there are some people that are doing it on a lot cleaner basis than others. So we're going to have to be able to have traceability all the way back to the initial melt mills and origin, so that we know how to move forward with it. So it's going to be some learning.
yeah, yeah. I'm very thankful for all the hard work that the advocacy group does, because that's an area that really helps us in the long run to understand these challenges. Because I think sometimes, if you're like me, if I sat down, it would give me a headache to try and read through some of these laws and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
It's so complicated, and you don't really understand what they're getting down to in the weeds about what is it you're trying to even solve. Uh,
Right.
I think that's become one of the other challenges. Uh, Talk about the other two pillars that you said there. You talked about networking and training. Is Is there a hierarchy within them, or do you think that they're all equally important? Advocacy, networking, training, or do you think that some are more important than others, or does it depend on the company?
So I think you hit it. For me, I think they're all equally important. Okay. It's a three-legged stool in my mind. All right. But I think there's a lot of companies that join the PMA and they might join it just for the training. They might not see the value in the other areas. So I think it depends, but for me, it's all of them.
Yeah. We just had a maintenance training uh, about a month and a half ago, and when we did that, one of the things that was brought up by the attendees was how important the networking was to be able to talk to one another and say, "Hey, what are you doing about this? How are you solving this problem?" Because it isn't just the information that's provided; it's the networking aspect, even within training. So, in-plant trainings or technical sessions provide a level of networking that can help make you better. Because when these maintenance people talk to one another, hey, I need a 2-inch valve for my clutch and brake, or an inch and a half valve for my clutch and brake. Do you have one available? Because we're down. That can be
You know,
extremely valuable.
it's funny you bring that up because you and I were talking just a little while ago when we were talking about training. And we were talking about EDView versus webinars versus in-house training of it versus going to a classroom environment and having people come in. And we talked, about what makes the most sense for what. The one thing I don't think that we can ever take away from it is, people, we do better when we're dealing with other people. Okay. And having that hands-on shoulder rubbing, there's a value that you can't really put on it because you never know where the payback is going to be. And I'll give you a good example. We've really been taking advantage of sending a lot of people to the Management Development Academy,
Hmm.
and the payback has just been phenomenal. But every single one of them that we've sent, when I talked to them, what they talked about was their ability to build relationships while they were there, and how that's really come back to pay dividends later on. And so that aligns exactly what you were saying, where someone in maintenance builds a relationship with someone in maintenance at another company. Now all of a sudden they have another resource. And that's really what we're talking about, using training as a networking tool, which creates resources for all of our companies.
That's a great description. It creates another resource for us. That's
Mhm.
a great point. Greg, I want you to now tell us why are you involved in the PMA?
Um, well, like I said, I've been involved with the PMA now for almost 35 years. Starting out on the district level in Southern California, and really saw a lot of value in doing it, built a lot of relationships, and then as my role has shifted over the years, moving more to the national level because it aligned more with what I was doing, but really it's not just even the relationships that we built. It's really been I think it's helped make Ulbrich a better company. We've learned a lot. A lot of people say, well, are you a manufacturing member? Are you a supplier? A lot of it is baseline information, regardless of what type of company you are. The PMA puts forth certain aspects within the industry which apply to all of us. And it's a matter of really being able to recognize what's out there. And so, really, that's what has kept me involved. Just to sum it up, great relationships, exposure to a lot of different ideas and concepts, and the ability to become a better company.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, Greg. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I've got an email address, gboucher@ulbrich.com. I've got a phone number, 203-234-3456, 43456, excuse me. And there I am.
That's fantastic. We really appreciate you, Gregg. And I personally really appreciate your leadership and, of course, all your contributions that you've been able to provide to us at the PMA over the
But
years.
just so you
Thank you.
know, just to wrap this thing up, we've got some great things happening at the PMA. I think that the 5-year horizon is exciting. I think that the association is headed in the right direction. We've got great leadership under David Klotz. He's got a wonderful team put in place, and I see nothing but great things coming.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gregg. And we really appreciate our audience. Thank you so much for watching the podcast, if you're watching it, or listening to it, if you're listening through one of the audio services. We really do appreciate you, and we appreciate your feedback. So please comment, like, share this information so that we can grow and also be able to serve the industry better.